So my name is Eddie Rowe, and I'll be your chair for today's final Large Systems Working Group session. Welcome to the Large System Working Group stream and to session 9R. On this session, we're going to be joined by Henry and Lionel, who are going to be taking us through using Git with ISPF. Yes, you really can. If there are any questions throughout, please feel free to drop them in the chat or unmute yourself. And we'll also have some time at the end of the session for questions. And final thing before we get started, please provide feedback for this session. If you go to the Bring Your Own Agenda on the GSE website, there's a link there that can take you to the feedback form. This way, it allows us to improve the sessions for you. Now, I will pass it over to Henry and Lionel for their session. The stage is yours.
Cool. Then I go, next slide, Lionel. Right. So yeah, for those of you who were looking at the agenda yesterday, I think there was a small mishap where it kind of gave the illusion Steve was going to present on this. If you can press the forward one more time, Lionel, please. I had the same feeling as the undisclosed person in our chat. Really looking forward to Steve Warren talking about how he develops ISPF from within ISPF using Ziggy. That would have been amazing, but unfortunately you all have to do with Lionel and me. That being said, I think we can fire to our lovely title slide and maybe switch directly to the next one, because we all now know we're in session 9R. Lionel, would you mind introducing yourself?
My pleasure. Yeah, I've been playing around and abusing the ZOS environment for a few decades now. I've fairly versed in doing ISPF. Henry gave me the title of ISPF Guru, which I feel honored to have. I've got a ton of open source tools that I have been privileged to release by my employers over the years. They've all been supporters of open source and supporters of share and guide. So that really helps. You can find around 80 or 90 of my tools on GitHub. And I've got, I believe there's 6 or 8 files on the CBT tape. And I'm currently working for Trident Services, which has an awesome product that is spelled ZOSEM for Z Awesome. It's an operating system environment manager. Helps you reduce system exits and improve your storage management environment. Henry?
Oh yeah, that's me. Well, my name is Henry Kuiper. For those of you that don't know me, I got the title all-round mainframe junkie from various people that I've been in contact with. I haven't been abusing the mainframe platform for quite as long as Lionel has been, but I think I got a good 25-ish years on the clock as well. Yeah, I do some work for the GuideShare Europe, which is well where we're at today, so we all know what that is. I'm a chair at interim, I must say, because we are hopefully replacing me very soon. For the security work group, I co-chair the AI working group, which is a European working group, together with Alzara Stevens. And I'm the technical coordinator for the Dutch region of GuideShare Europe. Yeah, you can see on the background, proud co-founder of Mainframe Society, owner and founder of C DevOps. And I'm currently employed by the Dutch tax office. We don't have awesome mainframe tools, but we do really good on tax collecting. Everybody loves us. And that's me and Lionel in, I think that was Orlando, I think. Yeah, yes. Orlando, the jest there was wonky shirts, obviously. I think we both succeeded. So you can take it to the next one if you please, Lionel. Don't think we need to linger long enough here because you can all get the PDF file.
Sorry to interrupt. We've got a few people in the comments saying that they can't see the screen.
Is there more?
Maybe if we stop sharing and then start sharing again and see if that works.
Oh, is that maybe because if you join late, you can't get the shared screen or something? Yeah, that could be.
Could be.
Good remark.
If you can, anyone not see the screen now?
I think we're good. I hope.
Cool. If there's any issues with not seeing the screen, just let me know in the chat, and we'll try and get it resolved. But I think we're good now, guys.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Eddie. It's been okay for me. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, on the PDF files that I think we already uploaded, you can get all this information. But just in case you wanna reach out to either of us, you can use those links there. That all being said, let's get to the real core of the business. Why we're here? We're here to talk about using Git on ISPF, which is done through Ziggy. Ziggy stands, well, it used to stand for the Z DevOps ISPF Git interface. That was when it was only me. Then when Lionel brought all the coolness that made Ziggy what it is today, it didn't really feel fair to keep it the Z meaning Z DevOps, so it's now the ZOS ISPF Git interface. It gives you all the capabilities of using Git as a version control and source management system, all from within your lovely ISPF environment. It's written in Rex and it uses a lot of Unix system services. Obviously, that speaks for itself, as Git only operates on files and not on datasets. I started working on Ziggy in 2018. I read here, that feels like so long ago. Luckily, 2019, Lionel joined the project and we had our first real public release, November 1st, 2019, at the GuideShare UK in-person event in Whittlebury Hall. Very cool session. I think there was like 4 people in the room. But that was the birth moment of Ziggy. We're licensed on the GPL v3. You can get our source code just from GitHub. You can make any change you want. You can send us a pull request, and if it's good, we will definitely include it in the next releases. So, yeah, that's what Ziggy is in a nutshell. But we're gonna tell you more and more about it. Maybe the next one, because why did we start? Why did I start writing Ziggy? Like a lot of good things that probably more of you can relate with, a lot of innovation is the result of frustration. I personally got very frustrated by XMIT receiving stuff to share, my trials at writing software on the mainframe to send it to Lionel or to other guys. It was terrible. Doing it in Git was sort of working, but it basically meant I was doing that mantra there at the bottom far too often. Fire up a Linux box, FTP to the ZOS image, get all the members from my PDS, add them to the Git repository, push it out. It was really terrible. And the way back was even, well, sort of the worst. Yeah, the picture here is I think you can almost see it. I think it's the UK brick company, the UBC. It's an actual British brick here, where you automatically bang your head because it's so frustrating. You can take it away, Lionel, if you wish.
Okay. Why did we create an ISPF wrapper, if you will, for Git? That's because there's a lot of ZOS developers that are still around with decades of experience. I'm one of them. And being honest, when I started the project, I could spell Git, but I would say that was the extent of it. So Henry taught me a lot, and I did a lot of reading. The ZOS developers, they're familiar and comfortable with ISPF. It just works. They're currently, right now, they use a lot of expensive source control products. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the different ones that are out there. I'm not going to name them, but I'm sure if you endeavor, you can find a few. Git has been available for ZOS for 7-8 years or so, thanks initially to the Rocket port, and then more recently, within the last few years, from the ZOS Open Tools project. It only runs under OMVS. So you need to have some kind of a tool, because ISPF doesn't really talk OMVS easily. There's tools you have to use for it. So what we have is we've got Ziggy providing a transparent interface to GIT for the ZOS developer. You don't have to know an extensive amount of OMVS skills to be able to use it. But you do need to have in place some OMVS tools like bash, ncurses, and Perl. This slide says available from Open Tools version 2.43. Both Rocket and the ZOS Open Tools are now 2.44 version of GIT. So they're now keeping much more current than they used to. We recommend the Dovetail technology Cozy Toolkit. And the reason for that toolkit, it's optional, but if you have a large number of PDS members, we have to Ziggy has to copy the PDS members from the partition data sets into an OMVS file system. The CP command is slow, being kind. Whereas the get PDS tool and put PDS tool that come with the Cozy Toolkit are lightning fast. At first, I thought when I used them that something was broken, but no, they just work fast. You also need OpenSSH installed on ZOS, and because we use SSH to support the GIT services. We currently do not have HTTPS supported Ziggy. If anyone wants to contribute that code, we're very welcome and open to it. For your convenience, we've got the URLs for the ZOS Open Tools project and the Cozy Toolkit. The Cozy Toolkit, by the way, is free with their community license, but if your company is capable of paying for support, I highly recommend you do that to help support the developers that Dovetail. Just a fair warning, Ziggy was not intended to be the place to go to develop code. It's designed to manage your code. Still use ISPF edit to edit and manage, update your PDS members, and then you go into Ziggy to do your thing, get it into GIT. That's because Ziggy does a lot more work around things, so it can be slower if you're on a slower processor while Ziggy does its thing. Because as you update a PDS member in Ziggy, it has to copy it down to the OMVS file system each time you make an update. You don't need to do that all the time. It can be used if you really wanted to. The recommendation is not. Use ISPF edit. IBM's file manager is an excellent tool. PDSCgen is a shameless plug on my half. Is a great environment for working with PDSE members with PDSE member generations. You can get it from GitHub or from CBT tape, and there are other tools as well. We don't work with SCLM, just pointing that out there. There are some issues you need to be aware of. Fair warning, this is fair warning number 2. These special characters, which typically we've only found so far in ISPF panels, where people have created custom attributes, those cause problems when you copy them to and from OMVS, simply because OMVS is going to treat these as actual characters, carriage return, new line, and line feed. So when they come back to ZOS, your records are going to be split because of the carriage return, new line, and line feed. Thus, if you have any members, PDS members, or data set sequential files with those, recommend you add those as binary elements. They'll still look fine on ZOS, but we have to do the binary tagging so that ZOS doesn't get upset with you. Fair warning 3. This is one Henry ran into. Do you want to take this one, Henry?
Yeah, people who know me know that I do not meddle with code pages, but there are some code page issues. It has nothing to do with Ziggy per se or with ZOS, but the general setup, if you are doing some funky character sets or some funky code pages, especially if your workstation runs in, let's say, a Greece or a what else did we see? A Pakistani code page setup, and then the ZOS is your default CP500, or things go a bit weird on code pages. For those of you into the more modern code pages on all systems, KLN 229, also known as the Cha-Cha Hot code page, is really troublesome. But that's generic for the entire ZOS operating system. In case you don't know what that is, I think we have an image of the code page up next, but it's the Klingon code page. We're really having troubles managing that with Ziggy, but luckily we don't see it that much, mainly because those characters are hard to display on a 3270 anyway. But pay attention to code pages, and I think that fair warning stretches further than just Ziggy, in all honesty.
Yes. So some of the benefits that you're going to run into by using Ziggy is your developers, they're comfortable with ISPF, so they can now participate with your distributed developers using the same Git repository. One of the projects that I have at the office is I'm working with HTML pages. I'm doing those in PD, they're members of a PDS, so I'm working there. I've got 2 team members that are developing JavaScript and CSS, and they're doing that on their Mac. And we're using the same repository. It works beautifully. So you can use this, and a lot of companies are already converting to Git to eliminate these expensive source control products. There's minimal training for the ISPF user to use Ziggy because it looks and feels like ISPF. There's tutorial panels, menus, it just looks like ISPF. You use a standard ZOS datasets, that makes it easy. Both sequential and partition, both partition standard and PDSEs. ISPF statistics are also retained. That can be important for some people. And it's seamless to use. You don't know you're using Git. You don't know you're using OMVS. It just works. So just as a little intro, what makes a repository in Git a Ziggy repository? A Ziggy RFD directory will be in the repository. That's a reference directory. It's a user's own directory. It lists different information about the repositories. There's one per repository. And it contains the last reference dates for the ZOS datasets, which we need to know. So when we go in, we know, should we copy all members or just those that have changed since that date? You don't want to, if you have a PDS with 1,000 members and change 2, you don't want to copy all 1,000. You only want to copy the 2. So that's where this comes in handy. We have a meta directory that's in the Git repository in the .ziggy subdirectory, contains different information, including information about each of the ZOS datasets that are managed. The PDS members can be copied over to OMVS, and a suffix like .rex, .jcl, .panel, .html can be appended if you wish. And then when you copy the repo back to ZOS, you need to know what the DCB characteristics are, and that's where that information comes from. There's an ISPF statistics file that's maintained. We do it in a Ziggy stat, rexexec. There's also the COSA utilities get PDS and put PDS, handle them natively, and it works beautifully to maintain ISPF statistics. So now we've got a static demo. unless Henry, you're brave enough to try a live one.
Well, we could start live. We could maybe see if there's questions. We can start with the live, if that makes sense, and you can guide me through the static one after I've done the live demo that I think would be a good show and tell on Ziggy's functionalities.
Okay, so should I stop? Yeah, I'll stop sharing so you can.
I think I can. I think when I press the button, I'm gonna force you to stop sharing. We'll see what happens. Now I've lost everything on our presenting screen, so I can't see the comments no more. So Eddie or Lionel, please shout out. I hope we can all see a TSO logon panel.
Yep, we can see that.
That's cool. Now, even though I'm a big security nerd in my own development environment, I usually just work with this user. As so I will today. This is running on the ZPDT here in the office. So I have prepared, I think I have prepared some data sets in the high-level qualifier GSE UK 24V. I got a load library with a very important program in there. I've got all the slides. This is the use case we're going to try, right? I've got the slides for our presentation here in a PDS. I just want to have a quick look. This is how presentations were done before Microsoft PowerPoint, using Git with ISPF. We get our agenda on slide 2. On slide 3, we still need some information to put here. This is the use case we're trying to show you. As promised, there should be some jokes in there. So there's already 2 jokes on the slide here. So those are the 4 slides, and then why not have the Ziggy splash screen as well in a sequential file? Now, in a regular pre-Ziggy environment, when me and Lionel would make a presentation in PDS members, as you do, I would make the slides and then create an XMIT file and send the XMIT file to Lionel, and he would add slide 5 and 6 and make a change in slide 3 while I was working on slide 8, and he would send back the XMI file, and you can imagine you spend more time on getting the right stuff in than actually doing the stuff you need to do. So we are going to get all these ZOS datasets into GitHub, so that other people can make changes and I can pull them back into the mainframe environment. Of course, Ziggy is set up as a TSO command on my end. So I just say Ziggy, we get Ziggy 3.19. I'll just enter through. You can see all the repositories I have been working on, but we are going to create ourselves a brand new one. We're going to call it, why not like that? We start out by telling Ziggy what the prefix is of all the various data sets that we are going to stick into the repository. That's another maybe limiting factor within Ziggy. You cannot have a sys1.parmlib and a user.something in the same repository. We try to follow the gist of Git, where the folder boundary is the repository boundary. So we translated that to COS datasets, saying the high-level qualifier is the maximum boundary of the repository. Now we're going to say this is my prefix. I do not want to push on commit. I definitely don't want read-only. This is a demo repository. Like Lionel was saying, Ziggy keeps tracks of ISPF statistics. Those include the user ID you're changing the members with. And it's very imaginable that you don't want your company user ID to be part of a public GitHub or Bitbucket repository, because that might leak too much information. So you can make sure that Ziggy will kind of mess with those ISPF statistics, so that in the repository you can change the user ID. And once another person clones your repository, brings it to their mainframe, they won't see your real user ID, but the one you specify. For now, I think we're going to have Angie be the owner of the user IDs. Here's the magic line of code pages. I am not going to touch that. IBM 1047. Ziggy is now going to try and find all the data sets that start with the high-level qualifier that I entered to it. And another neat trick that Ziggy does, we chop off the high-level qualifier from the names in the repository so that when you bring the repository back in, you can pick your own. Because I know all of you want our brilliant presentation in the PDS, but your system might not have GSE UK24V as a high-level qualifier available. So we are going to chop one qualifier off. Of course, you can choose to say 0, but then upon cloning the repository, it will still be prefixed with whatever you pick. It's now going to find whatever data sets are on the system. As you can see, it's the ones we've been showing you earlier. So let's just start with only adding the slides. This is where we can add the extension. Again, that extension on the file names gets lost in the ZOS sphere of things because we don't do extensions for PDS members. We do the extensions in our low-level qualifiers. But for grins, I am going to say these are all text members. So it's done. Ziggy tells us that this middle PDS has been added to the repository. We can press F3 and we see the repository. We see that we have one data set or file in our repository. It's untracked, meaning Git does not have knowledge of this thing yet. We could go and add, well, git add separate PDS members. We are not going to do that here today. We are just going to add everything to it. Now it's ready to commit, which is a good thing. So you can use command line interfacing if you know, if you've been a more seasoned Ziggy user. If you are not, you can just use the pull down menus and see what option you want to do. In our case, we're going to commit. We get a nice screen where we can give our commit title, we can add a tag, we can add more commit messages to it if we want. Demo first commit. Funky thing, because if we're typing here, you might want more lines with enter. So like it says at the bottom, F3 to continue. Are we sure we want to commit? Yes, we are sure. It's now been committed, it's done. Everything is in order, so to say. We can take a look at the log file, which I always forget where that one is. Git log query. I just want to view all the logs because this repository is very bare still. So this is where we see the same sort of thing that seasoned Git users who use Git in the command line would see. We see our first commit, which actually wasn't the first commit because Ziggy made us a real lovely set of Git attributes that it already committed to the repository. So maybe now it's time to bring this repository into GitHub. For that, I'm going to have to switch sharing, which is harder in a virtual session than a real one. So I'm going to share again, and I'm going to share my entire GitHub page. Actually, maybe scary. Get rid of this chat window. Repositories. And we're going to create a new one. And just call it the same name as we called it in our Ziggy environment. So it's going to be GSE UK, not UK, 24V. Demo repo. I'm going to make it public. I'm not going to add a README. I'm just going to create. We are still having talks with GitHub to have a how-to here if you are using Ziggy. Unfortunately, that's still not there. But the magic thing for Ziggy we need is this. So I'm going to put that in my clipboard. And then we hop on back to a much lovelier interface called 3270.
If I may, Henry, there was an easier way than highlighting and copying that on the page.
I could have copied it from the top. Yeah, you are right.
Correct.
You are right. Share. So I hope you can all see the 3270 again. Now we can start working with a remote repository that we can add. I'm going to paste that information into there. It's still remembered, but you can still change it, right? That we're going to change the user IDs, sorry, to Angie. We're just going to press enter. And it's done. We have a local branch. It's now tracking the origin, which is GitHub in this case. It can be any Git remote repository of your liking. It can be Bitbucket. It can be Gitblit. All the ones out there can be used, again, as long as the interface is through SSH. We just PF3 out of here again. And everything is fine. We're on branch, nothing to commit. Working tree is clean. So life is good. Now, I hope I'm not driving you people crazy with this constant switching. We are going to go back to this repository page. And we're just going to refresh the page. And lo and behold, we've got our, you see that this prefix, the high-level qualifier, has been chopped off. We can see our slides in all their glory here with their lovely .txt extension. So people working on a different platform, like a VS Code on a Windows or a Mac OS or a Linux box, you know, get all the fun they get from extension detection. So it formats it nicely. Now, there's not too much formatting on a text file, but you can imagine if it's a .json, it will show it to you in the right way. All our data is here. And now we're maybe just gonna pretend that we have, unless somebody has a really good joke we can add it to the joke page. Just giving a quick juke at the chat. Is there any good jokes in the chat? Probably too late in the day for good jokes, huh? So we are going to go to slide 3. And for argument's sake, we're not gonna do a let's fork this repository, clone it, change it, do a pull request. I think we all get the gist of that. This is not a Git talk. We're just going to do very, very, no, I don't want to go raw. I want to edit it. Edit. We need some information here. Live edit from GitHub. Commit, live update, and I commit my changes. And now comes the magic moment. We're going to switch back yet again to our 3270. We could do a pull here, but we're just going to start real clean and go to the main screen of Ziggy. We're going to select the repository we were working in. Ziggy will now do its magic. It will check any local changes that have been made, but it will also check if you have a remote defined. It will check if there's changes in the origin. And as you can see, we get a nice little information line here that says, hey, dude, you're lagging behind. You know, the origin has a change. So I assume it's under remote repository. We're going to select option 2. Let me get that mouse out of the road for you. And we're going to pull from the remote repository. Now, under the covers, Ziggy is doing a git pull. It brings everything in. All the data is now stored in Unix System Services. Ziggy brings it back to MVS datasets, and everything is written and checked again. Now I'm just gonna split screen here. I'm gonna go to this data set here. First of all, you see that everything was now changed by Angie. Which one did we change? Slide 3. And you can see over here that the changes we've done in the GitHub web interface edit have been pulled in straight and easy into our MVS datasets.
But you'll notice that the ISPF statistics did not change because it was changed outside of ISPF. We have no visibility into it, so the ISPF statistics are not changed. The other thing is, if you swap back to the ZigGI panel, you can actually browse that data set from here.
Browse here as well. And it's the same. We just used, I don't know what the correct word is, but we just used the ISPF tools, the regular browse and edit and view tools even for interfacing with that data. I don't know what else there is to demo, but you can imagine that we can now make a change here, do another commit push, and you will see it on GitHub. For the people, you know, watching at home, having another browser screen open, you can see this for yourselves now, right? Because it's a public repository. Maybe something nice to show on all our metadata, our ZigGI folders and our refds, because I just love switching what I share. Going back to our friend GitHub. Here's that the Git attributes that ZigGI made. You can see that we take care of a lot of standard things for you should you have those file extensions. All its internal data gets tagged, and if I tag files differently, you get something else than this little, you know, everything selection. In the .ziggy folder, you will find those DCB statistics. There's more comments than real data, but it's just to be real clean. And you can see here that this little line informs ZigGI that, you know, in case you guys install ZigGI and pull in, clone my my repository that I just made, it will know how to allocate that data set on your system. There's really smart size calculations in it. It keeps track of the suffix. And you can see that this one was a partition data set with members that are 255 bytes wide. The other thing you see here is those ISPF statistics, where, you know, this data gets pushed back into the mainframe environment. You could, if you wish, edit this and put the word Lionel here on this line, and whenever the repository gets pulled in, that member will have that user ID as the last author. Yeah, and the rest is what we've seen, right? We can add a README here. The minute we go back to ZigGI, it will pull that one in as well, and it will actually realize that it's not an MVS data set, but still part of the repository. So it will be present in the Unix system services environment. You can still edit it from ZigGI. We might give that a try, and then we guide through the static demo, Lionel, and see if there's questions. I think we're good on time. Yeah, we're definitely good on time. So I'm just going to add a small README here. I don't know what I need to put. Commit changes. Commit. Okay. Stop. And share. And go back here and share. And we might want to use the option here. What is it? I think it's fetch, right? We're behind by one commit again. So we best pull. Now I'm using the command and not the pull down menu. It's going to pull all the changes in from the remote. We can fast forward, press F3. Now you'll see the difference between a MVS dataset and a USS file, which can be in the same repository. But it makes sense that this is this can never be a partition data set or a sequential data set with the lower casing there. We can still edit it. There's really cool stuff in ZigGI. that Lionel wrote that just keeps on amazing me what he does. But when you edit a markdown file from within Ziggy, we push out some messages to give you a little help on how to do markdown syntax, which you can of course get rid of by resetting it, and they're gone. We can, maybe it is nice to show. Do you think we dare to show the commit log, Lionel, with the colors in the viewer?
Go for it.
I think that would be good, right? So if we go to, I hope I remember how to do this because I don't even use all the deep functionality here. Yes, we're going to type a slash in front of the member. It tells us all the things that you can do. We want to see the history of this member. There was a live update and the first commit, so we really want to know what changed here. Historical live, and this is what happened here. I want to see that diff. Is that the diff? Do I need to select diff then? Probably need to select diff. Only if I change it. I'll make another change. Now Ziggy, well, Git knows it's been changed, so Ziggy tells it it's been changed, and then we can take a look at the side-by-side diff, which really looks like using Git from a Linux command line. It shows you what's been removed and what's been added, right? And apparently Git doesn't think I've changed the line one more line, but it thinks I deleted 2 lines and inserted 2. So that's what that does for you. And just to keep in sync, we're going to add this. We're going to.
You can also do a slash on the select field to see the different options. So you can type H there if you want, now that you've got a different thing.
Yeah.
You've got some changes. And then do a slash next, do a slash now on one of those. So do a C.
Yeah, that brings us to the same path as looking at the diffs. Thank you, Lionel. Yeah, we're going to commit this to not leave a unclean repository. For those of you monitoring the real repository out there on GitHub, we might as well, we can't push here, obviously. We might as well push that out. Yes, I see your question, Neil. Well, I hope I showed you, Neil, the diff supersede the versions, or was there anything else you meant by that, Neil? Do we need to go back to the static slides where you want to show all the lovely features, Lionel, or do you want me to direct me on where to click on what to show people?
We can go through the static slides.
Okay, shall we go back to that? Because we know those will just do what they need to do, right?
Yes.
I will stop the share here. Stop the share.
Okay. Let me get that. Move a few things around on my screen so it's the Zoom stuff is not covering up the slide. So this is a set of repositories that I have. One of the things that you can do is you can sort each of these column headings, by the way. Let me go back. Our point and click, if you click on those column headings, they will sort the list by that column. You can also sort by 2 columns, and I typically will sort by last access and by the repository name. And the sort command will do that. And if you do that way, then the most recent repository you've edited or accessed will be the top one. If you do a slash on the command line or on any of the selection fields, you will get a pop-up showing all the various commands that are available on that particular panel. As you can see, we've got a few. Get info, which is a command. You can abbreviate, a lot of the commands can be abbreviated. This one is just get I. Shows you the Ziggy version, get version, where it found get, the ZFS you're working with, is cozy active. That is something we automatically detect and where it found the cozy ZFS and then the encoding you're working with. So if you're ever interested in the get information, the get I, the get info command will give that to you. If you do a slash next to a repository name, you get the options on what you can do in the selection field for that repository. Once you're in the repository, which you've seen, you notice on the top line is the menu bar, just like standard ISPF. Double click on those and you'll get a pull down. You can also do a slash on the command line to get a pop-up. So if you type the info command or use one of the menu options, this gives you the information about the repository, including the home directory, the high-level qualifier, how many qualifiers are going to be ignored. In this case, I'm ignoring those, both for qualifiers, the date I last accessed the repository and so forth. Doing a slash on the command line, these are all of the commands. Now they're all point and shoot if you want to do that, or if you just want to remember what the commands are. And as you use Ziggy often enough, you'll get familiar with the commands. README is another one of those commands that will generate a README file if you don't already have one and put you into ISPF edit on it. So you don't have to do it from GitHub, although the GitHub probably is easier. On a specific data set, you get the data set name at the top and then all the different commands that you can do on the data set. The commands keep growing. We keep adding to them. This become more of a full function environment. Selecting a data set, you can see at the top the data set name, the repository name, and then the branch that you're working with, because of course Git allows you to have branches. The type column tells you whether the member is text or binary, and then you get some of the ISPF statistic information. Doing a slash on a member, quite a few options that you have available on the member. This is what you get with a diff, and you've already seen this. We do the colorization is all done. This is all on ISPF edit view using panel recs. So if you look at the panel, you'll see Ziggy edit. You'll see what we're doing there. Henry, are you monitoring the chat? I just noticed that there were 3.
Yeah, I need to unmute here. Yeah, I am monitoring the chat. It's looking good. I was chatting you sneakily, I must say, but probably Eddie will give us a warning. My little alarm went off that we had 10 minutes left.
Okay. Doing a get log, you can specify how many commits you want to look at, from 1 to 9,999. Might be a little too many to look at. You can do a date filtering on that. You can filter based on commit messages. You can include the diffs or not. If you don't include diffs, it's a lot shorter and easier. And you can view or browse the log. I like to, in this case, we're going to look at the diffs and we're going to view it. And here we go. There's no diffs involved. It's just a very simple change. If there is a git command that Ziggy doesn't have hard-coded into the dialog to make it easy for you, You can use the git C or git command, ISPF command in the dialog, and it will bring up this. It's like TSO option 6. You can enter any git command that you want, or any OMVS command. You can separate the commands. If you look down, let's see, I don't know how you mark it up, but if you look at the third command from the bottom, it says checkout, period, and then semicolon. That's how you stack commands. And then for the second command and so forth, you have to prefix it with git. So in this case, git reset head, and then a semicolon and git status. That resets if you've made any changes and you want to pull down something, a new update from GitHub. You can't really pull anything if you've got local changes that haven't been committed. Well, that will reset everything so that you can. But that shows you how you can use the semicolon to stack commands. And there's the response. We have man pages. Git has man pages that are very helpful in trying to understand what Git's doing. We have a dialog that lets you look at all the man pages from within Ziggy. You don't have to go to OMVS. And there's an example. So we've already done a demo. So Henry, you want to take it from here, or?
Yeah, I just realized we forgot one slide, which is how to tell the people where to get Ziggy. Now our website is currently unfortunately down, or I would have spammed it, but we are on CBT tape. So if you go to cbttape.org, file 979, I think, one of my big tick boxes on my bucket list have something that I made on the CBT tape website. It's really amazing. We're on GitHub, so github.com/Ziggy. That's where you can find Ziggy latest and greatest. There's multiple ways of installing it. Just looking at the time here, and 5 more minutes. So we got time for one question, but it better be a good one then. What do you say, Eddie?
Yeah, we've got 5 minutes remaining, so maybe even more than one question.
Maybe. So if you have any questions, please do. If you don't, it must mean that this session was very clear and very eloquently given to you guys. So please let that flow out from your feedback. You can use the QR code or the link you see there. Don't be shy. Must be someone with a question. Thank you very much, Angie. Angie saying it was great. Well, you can all read the chat anyway, probably. So I think that's us. Everybody done on time. Everybody can have a wee little breaker before the closing keynote starts. Thank you very much, Lionel, for doing this with me. It's always an honor and a pleasure to co-present with you.
Same here, my friend. And don't forget, submit your feedback. If you didn't want to put it in the chat because you had something too nice to say about Henry, feel free to use the feedback form. You can use the QR code.
Great. Thank you, both Lionel and Henry, for taking us through that session. If no more questions, then I'd like to say thank you for everyone for attending this final Large Systems Working Group stream session. As I mentioned at the start of the call, this is session 9R. And the next session is with Mark Wilson, keynote session, The Good, Bad, and the Ugly. So final thing, please do leave some feedback for this session. That's available on the Bring Your Own Agenda section of the GSE website. And finally, thank you for attending all these Large System Working Group stream sessions, and we hope to see you all again soon.